Are corporate profits worth the sacrifice? Have no doubt, we the people of this society are being asked to make huge sacrifices. Sam Altman, why are they always named Sam? The CEO equivalent of an 11-year-old burning down the rainforest with a flamethrower while screaming, "Somebody regulate me!" has stated.
I think a minimum is that users should be able to sort of opt out from having their data used by companies like ours or the social media companies.
Personally, I think the bare minimum should be don't steal things. Ben Brooks of Stable AI would like to ramble through some answers.
You do not get the consent of the artist.
Senator, we believe that, yes, if that image data is out on the internet and robots.txt says it can be subject to aggregated data collection, and if it's not subject to an opt-out request in our upcoming models, then certainly we will use those images, potentially use those images if it passes our filters.
This whole opt-in, opt-out will explain how it works to have a system unlearn inputs that have already been taken if you get this after the fact opt-out from an artist.
There is a lot of work being done on unlearning in general. How do you interpret the relationship between training and the data in training and the performance of the model?
The fact of the matter is that AI doesn't unlearn anything. Opt-out is a decisively evil concept here. It is caring about creators' rights with one hand while picking their pocket with the other. I shouldn't have to opt out of being robbed. There's an inherent right of ownership. If a man robs my home and then argues in court that I didn't opt out of being robbed, everyone would find that argument ridiculous. But what if a man robbed every home in the neighborhood, or every home in the city, or every home that was painted blue? The amount or selection of those homes doesn't change the fact that as a homeowner, I don't have to opt out of being robbed. I have an inherent right of ownership. What if the robber owned a tech company? What if the robber's tech company was doing something shiny and trendy with their tech? None of this changes the fact that I have an inherent right of ownership with no requirement to opt out of being robbed. Scale doesn't make something permissible. What's wrong on an individual basis is wrong at scale. I've spent years of my life honing my skills. It is wrong to take that work without my permission. AI argues that it's difficult or impossible to give attribution, pay compensation, or get permission. They claim that they wouldn't be able to do business without the wholesale theft of artists' work without their permission or compensation. For generative AI to do what it does, it needs billions of images fed into its machine learning creative wood chipper. The assumption that business has a right to stay in business, no matter the human cost, is an old one. Our society used to rent orphans to chimney sweeps or sacrifice their tiny hands and limbs to the grinding factory machines. But I've got to ask the question, do AI companies have an inherent right to be in business? Their argument justifying stealing the work of artists and writers all over the world is that they can't function without that theft. By that logic, we should allow organized crime to harass, assault, and murder, because they claim it's impossible to do business otherwise. Let's say that a portal opens up tomorrow, and an otherworldly deity emerges. Through its confusing mass of tentacles and appendages, it promises to end world hunger, poverty, sex trafficking, and reality TV. Suddenly, a flash of light erupts, and reports start pouring in that barren lands have sprung to life, waterways are clear, and everything created during the first writer's strike has disappeared from streaming services. The creature then explains that a sacrifice of one person per year would need to be fed to it to maintain the agreement. In the face of eliminating the suffering of billions, this is not an easy choice, but the math isn't hard. As a society, we would find terminally ill volunteers and hail them as heroes. The one-for-many principle is in play here. We would erect monuments of those that were sacrificed. Whether it is a calculation of acceptable losses or a cost-benefit analysis, there is an inherent evaluation of what we give up compared to what we get. As a society, we would likely be okay with killing one person a year to the benefit of everyone on Earth. But what if the creature demanded more than one person? 1 person per month, 1 person per day, or 10, or 1,000? At some point, the quantity would tip the scales to make it not worth the sacrifice. How about changing the quantities on the other side of the agreement? What if the creature only benefited one continent, or one country, or one city, or one household, or one person? What if that person owned a tech company? At some point, too few people are being helped to be worth the continued sacrifice. What if we switched from the quantity to quality? What would happen if the sacrifice must be kindness or joy or peace or creativity? What if the creature demanded that the most talented or the most creative were to be sacrificed? A chilling effect would spread, eroding all desire for anyone to foster their creativity or increase their talent. Machine learning, large language models, generative AI, or whatever moniker this monster goes by, is claiming that they have to scrape billions of images and that it's unfeasible to license, compensate, ask permission, slow down, stop stealing, start over without theft, or do anything other than pedal to the metal innovation. Human casualties be damned. We should stop and think for a moment and decide if this trade is worth it. We should consider what we're giving up and what we're getting. We are being asked to sacrifice all the work of our artists, writers, and creatives, their livelihood, incentives to create, and futures, while destroying human innovation, art, writing, and creativity in the process. What do we get in return? We get faster, cheaper, and more efficient, soulless, formulaic content. We get a circular human centipede machine learning model that eats its own excrement until model collapse. We get the possibility of enhancing foreign disinformation campaigns, AI-fueled cyber attacks, algorithmically enhanced terrorist recruitment, and societal collapse a dozen different ways we haven't even thought of yet. We get the elimination of all creative jobs in every sector of every industry, leaving us to do the manual labor jobs Boston Dynamics has failed to automate. The threat isn't that robots are coming for truck drivers' jobs. The threat is that tech bros and billionaire-owned corporations want to replace actors, artists, and writers with software that increases their profits and won't unionize. AI is a tool, but a tool for whom? Not us. Any argument that AI is intended for anything other than the increasing corporate profits, enhancing espionage, or feeding the military-industrial complex immediately falls apart when you follow the money. It's either funded by a giant corporation or a CIA investment firm. As a side note, the government and its agencies are bound by law. Intelligence agencies have found very shady and creative ways to technically avoid the Fourth Amendment. You know, the one that says stuff about unlawful search, the one that says that you need a warrant, the one that says the government can't just rifle through your stuff whenever they please. Well, they don't need a warrant if companies just voluntarily give them our data. The FBI recently admitted to purchasing historical location data from our phones, and the Department of Homeland Security has purchased geolocations from phone games and weather apps from data brokers. The CIA is even more insidious in this aspect. They're not allowed to spy on U.S. citizens. But if a company handed them information, that's technically not spying. So get this, the CIA started a company called In-Q-Tel that invests in tech startups with the express purpose of national security. All they ask in return for their investment? Equity stake, usually in the form of a warrant. In-Q-Tel, as a private company, breaks no laws by volunteering information they gain from the equity stake warrants that they have with the companies that they've invested in to the CIA or other intelligence agencies. In-Q-Tel's partners are an acronym nightmare of spooks and G-men. If you're interested in a few rabbit holes, check out Jigsaw, the White House-protected Google initiative using experimental tech to identify emerging issues, or Project Maven, the Defense Department's AI tool that processes massive amounts of photo and video data from drone surveillance, or In-Q-Tel's original investment, Keyhole, or any number of not technically CIA-funded companies listed on their website. The unchecked proliferation of generative AI, machine learning, and large language models will not make this situation better. At this point, not regulating this technology is like not treating broken bones and hoping they'll just heal okay on their own. They're not going to. You'll be left weak and immobilized, and most likely, it will result in future breaks. We are literally being asked to trade the death of the arts and creativity for widespread unemployment, increased corporate profits, enhanced invasion of our privacy, and the possible end of humanity. We should, with Shakespeare, ask, what win I if I gain the thing I seek? A dream, a breath, a froth of fleeting joy? Who buys a minute's mirth to wail a week, or sells eternity to get a toy? For one sweet grape, who would the vine destroy? We are letting the entire vine of human creativity be destroyed so that a few billionaires can eat a single grape. I hope that they realize the next few stanzas. Oh, what excuse can my invention make when thou shalt charge me with so black a deed? Will not my tongue be mute, my frail joints shake, mine eyes forego their light, my false heart bleed? The guilt being great, the fear doth still exceed, and extreme fear can neither fight nor fly, but coward-like with trembling and terror die. Don't sell eternity for a toy. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln spoke on the conflict of rights of sheep and wolves. The world has never had a good definition of the word liberty, and the American people just now are much in want of one. We all declare for liberty, but in using the same word, we do not all mean the same thing. With some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself and the product of his labor, while with others, the same word may mean for some men to do as they please with other men and the product of other men's labor. Here are two, not only different but incompatible things, called by the same name, liberty, and it follows that each of the thing is, by the respective parties, called by two different and incompatible names, liberty and tyranny. Now, he is referring to slavery here, but the principles are applicable to this discussion as well. He continues, "The shepherd drives the wolf from the sheep's throat, for which the sheep thanks the shepherd as his liberator, while the wolf denounces him for the same act as the destroyer of liberty, especially as the sheep was a black one. Plainly, the sheep and the wolf are not agreed upon the definition of the word liberty, and precisely the same difference prevails today among us human creatures. Artists and writers are begging the shepherds in government to drive the wolves of Wall Street from our throats and regulate AI before it's too late, and they've eaten us all. We hope to say of Congress as Lincoln did of Maryland, thanks to them that, in which they have done, the wolf's dictionary has been repudiated. The choice on the table right now is whether we grant corporations the liberty to do what they will with other men's labor, or whether we protect the rights of individual artists and allow each individual liberty to do what they will with the product of their own labor. Contact your reps and let them know that the wholesale theft of living artists' work is wrong, destructive, evil, and doesn't gain us anything of value. As a society, when we give something up, let's make sure that we get something better in return." If you want to buy this shirt or hoodie or laptop case or mug, jump on to kuretake.com/store. And otherwise, I will catch you guys later.